Hello fellow seekers and welcome back to my channel. This is Amanda Artemisa Forrester, rune reader, diviner, and polytheist mystic. You guys seemed to really enjoy when I did the review of the Yggdrasil North Divination cards. That was really fun. And I've been meaning to do reviews of other card decks. As soon as I start filming, Thor is scratching at the door. My dog's name is Thor. That's kind of funny. Because I'm reviewing a North deck again today. Now I've been meaning to do this for a while. This is not an unboxing. Unboxing videos are fun because you get their very first reaction. You get, oh, that's so pretty, that's cool, I love that. Or, not too impressed. You know what I mean? Those are fun. But to get an idea of how useful these might be, I prefer to sit with them for a while. So I've had this deck for over a year now. I don't use it for all my readings because I use a lot of different things. I actually use real runes more than anything else. I have a couple of sets of runes, but I'm not going to get into that today. I'm planning on making an entire video about an introduction to runes. And I might even do a series of short videos about each individual rune. I haven't decided about that. But I'm going to do at least a little bit about the runes at some point. In any case, the deck that I'm going to review today is Odin and the Nine Realms Oracle deck by Sonja Grace. I actually really like this deck. But I have a little bit of mixed emotions. I do like it, but I would say if this is your first introduction to anything Norse, that I wouldn't use this deck as my only. It's got some things in it I consider to be incorrect. At least one that really stood out to me. But I've been doing this long enough that I can use the deck and still enjoy it. If you don't know anything about it and want to get started in Norse stuff, I still would prefer the Yggdrasil Norse Divination deck that I reviewed before. It's complicated, but really good to start with. It's only had one mistake in it so far, and it was just mixing up the names of some of the Norns, which could have just been an editing issue. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, the art in this is absolutely gorgeous. I've divided these into a few sections, into a couple of piles, so you can see. These are actually cards for the runes, as you can see right here. So you have got, that's one section. I'm not sure where she's getting the words for these, because this one's usually called Gibo. She's obviously using a different variation. Some of them look a little, she's not using the Anglo-Saxon runes. There's actually 6 or 7 extra Northumbrian runes. So I'm not sure about her variation of the spelling, but transliteration from one language to another is not an exact science, so that's fine. I've seen several different spellings of the runes names. That's not a big deal at all. So that's one section. Some more cards. She's got cards for the actual gods, as you can see. That's another pile here. I've called this one Gods and Related Beings because Loki looks like a tiefling, doesn't he? I kind of like that style with the horns. You didn't tell I play D&D. I just said he looked like a tiefling. Anyway, the other related beings, it's got a card for Hugin and Mugen, which, as you might guess, that would be like communication and delivery of messages. And also balance, kind of a yin-yang effect with it being 2 ravens. And the vulva, which I know in our language that sounds like a particular part of a woman's anatomy, but that's I hope this doesn't get removed from YouTube because of that. but in Norse, that actually means sorceress or priestess. So, not a word I use to refer to myself because of what it means in English, but a word that technically would apply to me. The other deck, no, not deck, because this is the other section of this. I'm the one that divided these up, by the way, into separate piles just to show you how it works. I don't want to show you every single card. I mean, the artist still has some right to their work, but with you seeing the beautiful art, you might be more likely to go buy it. So, the other section of the deck is, like, places. Yggdrasil, the World Tree. It's mostly, like, the 9 worlds. But it's got a few others, like Bifrost is a card. Or Bilrost is how they spell it here. But again, there's different transliterations, so that's not something to get hung up on. I'm an academic. I am getting hung up on it as I'm telling you not to get hung up on it. Oh, sorry. One of my dogs. That was Loki. Thor's locked out of the room, but Loki usually sits on the bed calmly. So, I let her stay in here. Yeah, Loki knocked over the phone for my video. Chaos. It's ironic, right? Anyway, I do really enjoy this deck. It's, one thing for going for the, artist and the lady who made the decks, not Miss Grace, is that she'll say in the introduction that a lot of the knowledge from it was gained directly from spirit walking, and you won't find it anywhere else in the world. So it's to her credit that she's not trying to bury that this is her own interpretation and her own spiritual experience. So I appreciate that she's not trying to claim that it's all 100% historical. Obviously this is an experiential religion, and there's legitimacy to that. But there is one thing in the deck which did bother me quite a bit, and I'm going to talk about that now. This right here is why I would take the whole deck with a grain of salt. I would, personally, I'm glad I bought it. I love it. I still use it, but I don't use it exclusively. I don't use anything exclusively, but when I do a reading for myself with this, I clarify with another deck as well. She says that Pertho, this rune right here, means eagle. And I've never seen that interpretation anywhere. Pertho is one of the more mysterious runes that we don't have a direct translation for, and it's actually hard to figure out. And I kind of wish she had actually admitted that, because we don't know. The most common interpretations and translations are that it means the well, as in Mimir's well, where Odin's eye is hidden, and where Odin traded his eye for Sip, which gave him wisdom. It's the well of wisdom at the root of Yggdrasil. Or a dice cup, which has an element of fate to it, but also would therefore be related to, it sounds like it's related to gambling, which it could be, but also to casting the runes. Because when the ancient Norse people did runes, they didn't do cards like we do. They would literally cast the runes. Like, I'm pulling out my wooden runes right now to show you. I keep them in this bag. Now, the way a lot of people use runes is they'll shake it up and they'll pull one out and then they'll just lay it down. I'm laying these down in these very pre-arranged, you can't actually see on the bed, but they lay it down in a pre-arranged spread like tarot. It's very influenced by tarot, but that's not how we believe that it was done. Now, maybe it was different by the 9th century, the Viking Age, but I don't believe so. The record that we do have comes from the Romans, from Strabo. I think it was Strabo. But it is the Romans who recorded it when they were fighting the Germanic tribes, and the way that they did it was literally casting. They would, I don't remember if they did all the runes or if they just reached in and grabbed some, like this is how I will do it. I'll reach in and grab a handful, which means everybody's reading has a different number. It could be anywhere from 2 to 10. I've never had more than like 8 runes in a reading, unless I pulled more for clarifying, and that was a lot. Runes tend to be very succinct in most of the readings I've done where I cast. Anyway, they would literally pull it and then throw it onto a piece of cloth. It's casting. I just gave myself a rune reading but right now in the middle of this video. Anyway, yeah, I'm getting distracted by the runes I just threw onto my bed. I need to cover that up and I'll look at them later. So, it was literally casting runes. And so that's what the general interpretation of Pertho is. As I did the well or the dice cup. And I even, I could pull out my books to show you, but in this quick video, I'm not, even though I could use this as a springboard, this is the card right here. I'm not going to, not right at this moment, because I'm actually reviewing the deck. But that's the only thing that I wanted you to be aware of. That I consider that one to be a pretty egregious, difference. Other than that, I actually really enjoy this deck. I do think it's got a little bit more of a New Age-ish flavor, but I'm a little bit New Age-ish too. I'm Old Age-ish as well. That sounded, Old Age-ish. That sounded like I'm prejudiced against old people. That's not what I meant. Very off the cuff here. I'm very traditional with some things, but I like to I like my crystals. You know, everybody, all us new agey, spiritual pagan folk, we like our crystals. And most of our ancestors are not going to have giant hunkin' things of amethyst and shiny cumbled rose quartz in their homes, okay? Most of their spells, if they would have been called spells, it would be closer to what we consider kitchen witchery. It would have been just very intentionally cooking with whatever ingredient they had at hand. But I like my crystals. I'm a little bit of a kitchen witch. I've got a little bit of it all, and that's okay. So, I actually like to use these two decks together, because to me it actually kind of puts that, you kind of get the New Age and the Old Age together. As I said in the last video, this one's made by an Icelandic artist and his daughter. So you get that real Icelandic feel of the culture with that one. What's cool about this lady is she's got, I believe it's either Swedish or Norway. I think it's Norway. She's got one half of her family is Norway and one half of it's Native American. As she looks more Irish to me, but that just kind of shows you how genetics aren't always, things don't pop up the way you expect them to, you know? But, she's also written another book about integrating those practices and her heritage. I haven't gotten that book, but I'd like to. But I just, but that could also be why the eagle in her own spirit work became so prominent, because it was such an important animal to the Native Americans, and that was part of her history. And that is not to delegitimize spirit work at all. This is, as I said in other videos, I'm working through the Neolithic shamanism course. And while work and school gets busy, my spiritual studies tend to slow down a little bit, but I've never stopped. This is constantly a part of who I am. And usually when I go hiking, I end up talking to the trees, if not doing a full-on ritual. And at the very least, I pick up trash, and that's an offering to the trees and to the river spirits wherever I am. So, because of that, I do like to distinguish between that. But that also kind of makes this even more appropriate for people who are following a northern tradition path in North America. Don't you think? Because that makes this deck kind of like almost specifically for our situation. Because there's, of course, the Asatru folk who are in Iceland are in a different culture than us. I mean, that should be obvious, but people don't always think about that. There's some problems in American heathenry that don't even pop up in European heathenry. The rejection of Loki completely by American heathens, not all of them, and certainly not me, but a certain type of middle class Protestant influenced heathens tend to shift all of their fear about the devil onto Loki and then reject him completely and say that the god didn't have anything to do with him. He was Loki's blood brother. He was pretty important. I actually don't have that much of a devotional relationship with Loki. My dog is preening as I say Loki's name because that's her name. So she's laying here waiting for a belly rub. I don't have much of a devotional relationship with Loki, but I have a feeling that that may come in time because I've been worshiping Odin pretty intently for several years now. And as I said, he is Odin's blood brother. And he's got a picture on the bottom shelf of my Odin altar. It's in the corner of my room. I'm looking at it now. And I ended up adding that when little things just kept going wrong. And just silly things. But you know, just all the little annoyances of life and stuff disappearing and the card not starting. And then I'm like, Loki, are you just asking for a place on Odin's altar? Is that what this is going on? Everything stopped. All the little annoyances stopped. So after 2 or 3 days after I asked that, I'm like, all right, there you go. Put the photo on his altar, and haven't had any problem with him since. That might be all he wanted. Well, I wasn't expecting to do this, but we did just have the summer solstice. We're in Cancer season now. Coming up on the 4th of July as I record this, which is a pretty big day of independence for my country, obviously. Let's see what we got. Dages, Gibo, and the Norns. Well, I know without even looking that Dages is this one. This one has no merc staff. That means it is the same upside down as it is forward. You can kind of turn it on its side, but you don't do that with the cards. So I'm just not going to interpret it being on its side like I might with runes. So Dages means day. You can kind of tell with some of the words where they came from. And it's a perfect balance. And it's a good rune. When it's got no merc staff, it's a pretty bright, happy one. And also, if you think about the Nordic culture, where these were pretty frozen lands, anything related to sun is a good thing. These are warming things, you know. But I'm going to read what it actually says from the book so that you get an example of how she writes. Dages represents the breakthrough for which you have been waiting. It requires total trust, for you may be called to take a leap of faith. The polarities of light and dark and good and bad play a role in this transformation. Observe both sides and release what holds you back. Observation of duality allows for total change. Your breakthrough may be so complete that you feel as if you have made such a radical transformation that you do not recognize the person you are becoming. Trust that the light you seek is always on hand, and darkness is nothing more than a place devoid of light. This rune indicates a period when your achievements are recognized and prosperity follows. There is no Merc staff or reverse position for this card. Dagas encourages you to stay humble and fully embrace your transformation. And obviously Gibo here is another one that doesn't have a reverse. It means literally gift, like exchange, an exchange of energy. Her interpretation is interesting. She also interprets it as literally meaning partnership, and in a reading it can mean marriage, which I guess I could see that. There's other ones that I would interpret more as marriage runes. But gift is inherently a community rune, because in order to receive something, it has to be given by someone. In order to give something, there has to be a receiver. It has to be more than one person involved, right? Exchange of energy. And in a good marriage, you would also want an exchange of energy. So I can see how she would interpret this one as a marriage rune. I mean, you would want your marriage to be giftful, full of gifts. And again, I know that makes it sound like very materialistic. Well, first of all, wanting your material needs to be taken care of is not a bad thing. That doesn't mean you need a Rolex or a Lexus. It just means you want, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But gift literally just means an exchange of energy. So how she phrases it is, your first partnership is with yourself. A union within you, the male and female aspects in harmony. Gift, again, that's how she spelled it, so I'm pronouncing it as she does, is the bringer of gifts and let you know you are to be blessed with a union or partnership. Be mindful to hold up your half of the sky, for in any partnership you must take responsibility for your part. Yeah, that's another thing that Gibo is. It's a good rune, but since it's an exchange of energy, it's not like, here you go, I'm going to go away. There's also responsibility. It does mean you have, by accepting a gift, it comes with responsibility. And especially in Norse culture. In Norse culture, a gift demands another. It doesn't even have to be the same equal value, necessarily. It's a contract. That's the term I'm looking for. It's a social, unspoken contract. So by accepting a gift, you are agreeing to something. The partnership could be a love relationship or one in business. Either way, remember not to lose yourself to the depth of the connection or hand over your power. And I could really pick apart every sentence in here, but not in a bad way. Like, I could really go on about there's a lot of meaningfulness in this deck. Like I said, I've got some nitpicky things I do not like, which is why I wouldn't recommend this as someone's first introduction to using Norse culture divination tools at all. But if you have a little bit of experience, or if you have a good handle on the mythology, and then I don't see a problem with it. I really like it. Since gift reflects both sides equally, there is no Merc staff, no reverse perdition, but keep in mind the importance of maintaining balance. Now this is sort of like an example reading that I'm doing. I'm just doing a 3-card reading just to show you these cards. But you could, I don't know. I'm gonna think of this as being kind of a reading for myself and also a reading for the collective. That's just how I'm gonna see it, because I wasn't expecting to do a full reading today, and it's not even a full one. But I'm just going to do it to show everybody how these cards work. I'm gonna actually read her writing so that you decide if you want to buy it yourself. I'll include a link in the description. But if you stumble on this at some point in a year, in 6 months, I'm just going to say this reading is for you. The Norns is the future card in this 3-card reading. And that's the Fates. That's the Fates. This is one of the most powerful cards in the deck. There are said to be many Norns. All are born from the gods, elves, and dwarves. But the 3 most prominent are Erd, Vervandi, and Skold. They live under the Tree of Life, Yggdrasil, in a beautiful hall near the Well of Fate, Erdbrunner. They visit each child at birth. This card indicates that the Norns are shaping your life, just as they shape the lives of all people. Erd represents your past. Verdandi represents what is constantly coming into being. And the third, Skold, represents what shall be. I'm back. It cut me off. Alright. This card indicates that the Norns are shaping your life, just as they shape the lives of all people. Erd represents the past, Verdandi describes what is presently coming into being, and the third, Skold, represents that which shall be. The Norns cast wooden lots, weave cloth, and carve symbols like the runes into wood, all fate crafting activities. The wooden lots would be the runes that I was throwing earlier. Drawing the Norns suggests that you need to set an intention for what you desire. It could be yours. It must come from a place of reviewing where you have been, what you want, and where you see yourself going. The Norns encourage you to surrender your attachment to your karma because it is woven already into the path you are on. Stay in gratitude. Everything has already been created. Alright, so the fact that she uses the word karma instead of weird or orlog is another sign that this is more New Age influenced than the Yggdrasil cards were. There's already words in Norse culture. You don't have to use the word karma. You can use weird and orlog. But I understand why she would also use karma if she was trying to reach a wider our audience. So that's okay. Like I said, I really, really enjoy these cards. I really like the bright colors. You can see behind me all my bright colors. You can see I wear bright colors in all my videos. I like bright colors. I'm a Leo. I like to stand out. I don't know. It's just the way I am. The starkness of the black and white art in the Yggdrasil cards, plus the brightness of these, it's really interesting culturally, and I really like to use them together and to offset each other. Again, kind of that yin-yang balance thing. So I don't have much time. I can edit a few more videos onto the last one that cut me off, but there's not much space on this phone, and that's something else I'm gonna have to work on before I can make more videos. So I'm sorry that I couldn't go into more detail in this particular film. I definitely want to keep doing this. Let me know if you really like the review videos. That last one seemed pretty popular. And there's my first tarot deck was the Mystic Tarot, which is based in Greek mythology. So there's actually a lot of decks out there that I could review. Oracle, both of these are divination or oracle decks, not a traditional tarot deck. But there's a lot of decks out there that are more pagan influenced than just strictly tarot that I can review for how good they would be for actual pagans versus just new agey. So let me know if that's something you enjoy. I would like to do a series on the runes, but I'm also working on the series on my festival calendar and possibly on ancestors. So with the work and school in my life, I may not start the rune series until next year. But I think I'll keep reviewing decks as we go along. So we'll see. We'll see how things pan out. Thank you very much. I really have to sign off before I get cut off again. So this has been Amanda Artemisa Forrester. Thank you for visiting my channel. If this is your first time, please give it a like. That actually really helps me. I know everybody asks, but it does help me. Give it a like, give it a subscribe if you want to see more from me, and leave me a comment if you really like these review videos. If people like these, I'll keep doing more. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day. Happy 4th to my American friends, and Skål.